So I am here talking with my friend, I mean, at least an acquaintance, if nothing else, Ginger Smith. And Ginger and I have talked another time about a year, maybe 2 years ago, even. It's been a while. And Ginger is someone who was pretty much progressed into lots of cognitive disability, lots of loss of abilities, and then reversed that whole process and has gotten back to a very different place. So, Ginger, tell us, bring us up to speed, but actually go back and tell us a little bit about the past. And we'll link this to your previous conversation. So it's not like people won't be able to go back and look, but it's always a good idea to do a quick review.
Yeah, and I did. Oh, I'm so honored you're having. My respect for you is so enormous. But and to have me back, I'm just thrilled because I've got a lot of good news. Things have
Good.
gotten a lot better since we talked, and they were pretty darn good then.
Yeah, compared to where you were before, it was
Okay, well, I'm
definitely
an
so much.
86-year-old um, former speech language pathologist who had to retired dramatically because of onset of dementia symptoms. And I ended up in a nursing home, hospice, dying with bedridden, aphasic, hallucinating, tremoring, terrible tremors. And instead of dying, as you know, they withdrew all the curative medications. I slowly started to recover, and it's kind of still happening.
Wow. So remind me, how many years ago was that? Because that's the part that's really interesting, how it started for you and then it rapidly progressed. I mean, it wasn't like a slow progression, it was really quick for you.
Well, it was slow. Actually, I
Oh,
feel I've actually had symptoms of dementia all my life. I had neuroleptic sensitivity early. I couldn't use a Novocaine, and so it was so painful for me to have teeth worked on. I ended up having to have these lovely implants. Um, I had a restless leg. I had confusion with math concepts. I had a really great dramatic life, a lot of stuff happening. But the bottom line is when the dementia hit badly, and I really consider myself an early, what they call early onset dementia
early
because
onset. Do you remember
yeah,
how old were you when your very first, you went from those things sort of were always happening for you? That was a lifelong pattern. So that wasn't
right.
new. What was the new thing? When did the new thing start happening?
Well, I think the bad ones really started in my 60s, which was
Yeah.
what, 25 years ago.
Premature, you had to do
Yeah. And,
premature
and
retirement.
another point I kind of wanted to make, and I think we skipped over, I have another bunch of things that I did review, and I thought, ooh, I've
Yeah.
got things I need to correct.
Yeah.
But one of them is that I was not on heavy medication at all when my dementia symptoms hit. And I kind of wanted to
Okay.
clear that up, that
So
that
no,
wasn't the
you
case.
weren't on meds at the time.
I was on one because I remember they diagnosed me with bipolar, which I didn't really have. So yeah,
Gotcha.
okay,
So it
my,
was a symptom already of something happening to your brain, and they mistakenly thought it was a psychiatric symptom and started treating you with a psychiatric med.
you
Um,
got it. Yeah, which are
yeah,
terrible for a
they're not. Yeah,
neurodegenerative
no, they're.
disease. That's the
Yeah.
worst thing you can do for someone with that. And as I know, I ended up in the dreadful dying in this nursing home for a couple of years. It
Wow.
wasn't like an overnight. I was there. I was in a number of them, and yeah, it
Were
wasn't.
you still eating ginger, or was eating getting to be eating and drinking? Were you still
Oh,
enjoying food
I
and
was
drink,
I
or
had some problems with alcohol for sure, and problems with eating. Yes,
okay?
I'm normal weight, but one of the things as we talked about is I lost 100. What? Oh, I said 130. Actually, it was 140. I need to
Wow.
correct that. Yeah, I was emaciated,
Wow.
and so I've got to really watch the.
You have to get the
I
calories
got to
in.
watch that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I want to make a big correction. It's kind of embarrassing, but I said it was 30 meds. It was 20.
Oh,
Only
well.
20. Gee, only
Well,
20.
then nothing to worry about. Everybody's on 20, right?
Yeah.
No,
So that
no,
was the correction
no.
I wanted to
Wow.
make
Wow.
early.
Could
And
it have been, here's a curiosity, could have been 30 pills total, though.
No, it was 20.
It was
I
20
got to be
pills,
honest about
actual
that. That
pills.
actually that wasn't all prescription medications
Right,
either.
right, right.
There were
Yeah.
about seven psychotropics and a lot of pens, heavy duty, like, oh
Yikes.
gosh, really heavy. Haldol. You don't
Aldoparanol.
give someone with, you don't give them Haldol. And
I know.
so one of the things I don't know, I think we touched on is the fact that as I began to get better, I was able to crawl out of my bed, and I found that list and wrote it down. I didn't have if I'd only had a phone, I could have copied all that, but I did have enough sense at that point.
Yeah.
I still have
Wow.
that list to this day.
Wow. And was your handwriting really shaky or was it already starting to
Of
recover?
course, I had the Parkinsonian symptoms of
Mhm.
tiny microscopic
Mhm.
handwriting there for a while, but by then I had recovered enough, even though no one knew it
Interesting.
but me,
Uh-huh.
to handwriting was pretty good. And now
That's what I
it's
wondered, as you
yeah,
came out of this, if a lot of the symptoms that people would describe as Parkinsonian actually resolved as you came off the antipsychotics and you got
yeah.
off the I imagine you were also possibly put on seizure medication. Um, were
I
you or
wasn't on
was
seizure, I never had
oh okay.
seizures, although the
Okay.
medication they gave me, the
Depakote?
I wasn't on Depakote. I was
Okay.
on Seroquel,
Oh yeah.
which is
Yeah.
like a nasty
Yeah.
one. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That's
I
the
was,
yeah.
yeah.
So as you came off of those, you reawoke, you woke up and you became more of who you were before all this started.
Mm-hmm,
Um,
mm-hmm.
and so something triggered the onset of your process of deterioration, but then people made it so much worse by loading all these meds on board.
Yep, yep, yep. And
Yeah.
the isolation. I remember it was
And the
during
lack of,
COVID. I was terribly isolated. I was almost alone in this big house. She kept losing. She had her nursing home in a home at this point. That's one of
uh,
the many nursing homes I was in. That the last one was a home. She kept losing people. They were dying. She couldn't get new because of COVID. So the isolation was horrendous for me, and
wow.
I think that affected my learned helplessness that
Yeah.
I
Oh,
talked
yeah.
about because I didn't try to help myself until I came home, and then I started
Mm.
to.
Do you remember, was your classic behavior of that helplessness? Did you, I'm just going to do it, the help me, please help me, or were you silent?
Okay, say that again. I'm so hard of
Some
hearing.
people, no, some people, when they have learned helplessness, cry out a lot. Help, please come here. Please come here.
Oh,
Help me,
I
help
used
me.
to scream. I screamed so badly they had to put me in a special room with a vestibule because I was just
Gotcha.
annoying everybody.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to scream.
It wasn't, that was the panic of being alone and no one coming and I need help and I don't have it. And you
Yeah,
didn't even have words at that moment to
yeah.
express the
I was
distress.
just mumbling. I was aphasic. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
Yeah.
I'm excited to tell you another thing. Wanted to point out is we talked about the fact that I had passed a neurological evaluation. I passed another one even better. So
Wow.
my
Wow.
condition is not only not degrading, it is
It's
slowly even
it's
getting better.
still coming back.
Yeah.
Is this is a weird thing, but given your background in speech pathology, do you think there's any chance you had actively somewhere in your brain a stroke?
Oh, I did have a stroke. Yep, yep, yep. One, but I had a very mild
Yeah, I
stroke to
wonder
the
if though there
point
was
where
a
it was.
here's did anybody ever check for a hidden stroke? Something that was hidden and more
I had
in the
MRIs. Yeah, I had the MRIs. They're
you
not like
did.
fMRIs. They only do so much. They
Yeah.
don't show the folded
No.
neurons, for instance,
No.
that I
Yeah.
think, and I think
No.
we talked about the autophagy, my losing all that weight may have
Mhm.
pruned
Yeah.
those
Exactly.
connections.
Yeah.
Yeah, the neuroplasticity. Remember, we talked about that as
Yeah.
kind of new then when we
Yeah.
talked about that. That was about 2 years ago. It's been 3 years since almost to the day I came
Wow.
home from the nursing home. Yeah,
Wow. Wow. So you're back in your own home,
in my cute little condo.
your cute little condo, and it's a good space for you.
Oh, it is. I have this lovely view of the lagoon, and here in sunny California, Northern California, I love it. I'm very, very happy here. My son lives next door, and he handles my finances still because I still have MCI, mild cognitive impairment. I was
Yeah,
tested out that I don't, but I
you know
functionally
you
do
do.
have it. I do have it. And maybe sick, heaven's sakes,
I was going
right?
to say, give yourself a break. Yeah, you don't have to be perfect at everything. It's called living in supportive community a little bit. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
what do you do that gives you purpose now these days?
Oh, well, writing my memoir,
Cool.
and I wanted to add, I have taken so much. I wanted to add that I added tips for caregivers in about a 10-page
Wow.
tips for caregiver that I've taken a lot from you, of course,
Oh,
and cold. But what's interesting, I think, Teepa, is that it's from my perspective as someone who lived it. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And not
So,
only lived it, I studied at Stanford Neurology, worked in the neurology clinic. I have a certain amount of training. I was a caregiver myself with my mother. I took the training. So I think my perspective is something different
unique.
because
Yeah, it's
usually
definitely unique. Yeah.
these books are written by caregivers. I kind of saccharine, to be honest.
Yeah,
And
and like it's from one perspective, and that's fine. But yours, you get the multiplex. So,
yeah.
yeah. So, Ginger, if you were to give us like one of your tips, what would be one of them from both sides, all the sides of the coin? I'm not going to say just both sides, but from all sides of the
I
cube,
kind of don't
maybe.
want to repeat myself. I think maybe, well, we talked about the showers. Like I hated
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
my bony rear and the water coming down on me. And
And was there any value in them? Could no, you not have gotten clean another way?
well, I think people overdo the clean thing. I
I
don't think we
know.
need
I
that many,
know. Like,
heaven's
I'm
sakes.
talking about getting the pits in the crotch and, like not doing the whole body all the time.
Yeah, and you use those baby wipes. That's what I do to this day. I use baby
And
wipes and
nobody says you smell bad, so it must be working.
yeah, and I lost my sense of smell. That's another symptom that I had
Ah, yeah.
all my
Yeah.
life, and that was
Yeah.
I just couldn't smell my own odor. And I
And when
always,
you were not able to keep up with time, and whether or not you did or you didn't this time, but you did like 2 weeks ago, or I don't know how long it's been since I managed to get that done. And why bother anyway? Because I'm here by myself. Nobody cares.
yeah, and I think the important thing is, and you bring that. I think that's one of the prominent things of your
Yeah.
therapy is that we don't do it on purpose.
Yeah.
We're not
Yeah.
mean. We're not trying to humiliate. We're not trying to embarrass. It's inside of us, and we're just fighting for our own lives, our own
Yeah.
independence. I fought so hard when I came home for independence. Oh, I never mentioned this is a kind of a tragic one, but my daughter-in-law made my son change my diapers. He was so humiliated, and
Mhm.
when I learned helplessness at that point, I didn't need diapers. I didn't when I came home. I was perfectly capable of using disposable panties. Oh,
Yep.
and guess what? Good news I have. I'm continent.
Yeah.
Yes.
Congratulations. That's hard work.
Yeah, well, I use a
Wow.
TENS unit on my
Uh-huh.
ankle. I don't know if you've heard about that.
Yep.
And I do the Kegels like faithfully.
Good for
So, and
you.
I'm and in a clinical
Wow.
trial for it. And so I'm happy to say, yeah, now that's a fair reason.
Congratulations. That is a lot of work right there. So, one of your purposes of living is to prove people wrong.
I know,
Not I mean,
I
that's not why you do it, but to be all you can be, to not settle
to be
for,
honest, I love that. I love that. I
yeah.
think, like I said, I think I talked about the ND, no near death, the NDE,
Mhm.
that I had this. I know it was chemical, but I did have an experience of dying, and it was beautiful and wonderful and peaceful. And I know it was chemicals, but I could. It still gave me the impetus that there's something in me that decided to come back to help others.
Wasn't
Sounds
time.
corny, but
Yeah,
that's what I really feel. I feel I
yeah,
have something to share
yeah.
and I can help others with my
Wow.
story.
Cool. I mean, and you do. I think this sort of like not everything that looks like a dementia that's progressing is dementia that's progressing. This thing of giving up on people and just letting go of helping people and giving, I mean, truly, whatever. And instead of going, hey, Ginger, I could use your help. Here, sit
Hmm.
up for a second. I want to show you something.
Yeah.
That desire to participate in living was there, but nobody actually, other than you, really saw the potential in you.
And then, my family were smart. They're not,
No,
my son's a genius,
yeah.
but they didn't didn't give me, I hate to say it out loud because maybe they're wonderful, wonderful people, but they didn't
Uh,
give me the chance. They didn't give me, quote, the benefit of the doubt. And I think that's a
well,
big one with
that's
you.
a big deal. That is a big deal. Like seeing the potential and seeing what's still there.
Right.
This is part of our mission as well, is to acknowledge, you know, for everything that's lost, there's so much that's still possible. And you won't
Yes.
know what's possible until you explore it with somebody with permission. You can't just jump on them and make them do something. I mean, that whole thing of figuring out how to connect, how to communicate. Um, and you had to be ready for that too.
I guess so.
How did
I've
you
lived
get
all my
yourself
life
to
in the
that?
various things that we had talked about,
Yeah,
being diagnosed with bipolar. I never had bipolar. It was dementia
yeah,
all along, and
yeah.
the medications. I recovered from alcohol use. I recovered from uh,
We're
seek.
learning a lot about alcohol use and discontinuing alcohol and how much a brain can recover. Um, do you remember when did you start drinking as a teenager or later in your
No,
life?
no, luckily not,
Oh,
because
good.
I was in my late 30s. I was
Okay.
very much against alcohol. Thank goodness, because if I had started in my 30s, I never would have had this recovery because my brain would have been destroyed.
Yeah.
And now
I was
I
curious
couldn't come back
because,
from
yeah,
it. Yeah,
yeah, that's a
yeah.
challenge when people had started much younger and continued much more binge drinking. That's much harder for a brain to recover from because of the damage and the wiring that never took place.
Yeah.
So for you, I'm wondering if I were to listen to everything you've shared, boy, does Lewy body come to mind as a
Well,
type of dementia.
there is a list the Lewy Body Association puts out, and I think it's like 40 symptoms, and I
Hmm.
had 38 of them, and we
Yeah,
only need 7 to diagnose. So,
yeah,
but we joked about my brain is a science. I don't want to survive before they do that, but if there's something in there that they can find, they can harvest. You
yeah.
know, I
Yeah,
sometimes
I mean, you made me wonder whether you were meant to be a super ager, but you got one of these code genes that switched on at this point with a combination of a little stroke, alcohol, and and weight and glucose and all that stuff, and your brain went, okay, let's do the dementia thing. And then, and it's sort of, you started much younger with the shifts and changes than anybody realized, but you're so smart and you compensate so well. And you overcome in many areas, and you're very aware of the areas you're not good at, so you don't use those areas. You avoid them if at all
I
possible.
like the term resilient because
Yeah,
I think
you're
that kind of
incredibly
fits.
resilient. I mean, and
Yeah,
that's a lot of the super agers. One of the phenomena is they're resilient. You have to be resilient. You won't be a super ager. You'll die. I mean, you won't make it if you're not resilient.
yeah, right,
And you
right.
are resilient. Wow.
One thing I also talked about, which I think you'll get a kick out of, or you'll be happy for me. I am, is how my family and everybody ghosted me so much. Because my behavior is so abhorrent. I mean, disgusting things, playing with poop, things like that.
Well, things that your
You
brain
know,
told you to do at the time. I mean, again, it's so easy when you stand outside this and not to understand the disease and realize, people were doing what they're doing because there's a mismatch in the brain, and I have a sensory ability and I don't have a sensory awareness. And so, doing things that people are like, oh my God, but
Yeah.
you're looking at me from an intact brain and mine's not right now. I mean, it's just not working like that.
Well, I remember thinking, oh, my rear end itches. I'm going to
Uh-huh.
scratch it. As
Yeah,
simple as that,
yeah,
Oh.
exactly.
So here's the good news. I'm getting people back in my life, Chief. I'm getting my
Yeah.
son back. My son from Reno is going to visit me. The wonderful people, there are a lot of wonderful people in the world, and I've taken advantage. And I think my resources in the book it will help too, because I have taken advantage. So people from Next Door Association got me a
Ah,
bed. My family had stripped my condo when I was dying,
yep.
ordered the cremation. They
Yep.
could have waited. Well, no, they were told
Well,
to. That's part
let's
of it.
get all those things taken care of just in case.
Yeah, so I now have a bed I'm sleeping in, getting better sleep. I'm eating healthily. Don't exercise as much as I should. Boo. Boo. 86, come on. I'm not going to be hopping around, but yeah, I just wanted to
How
look. I made a couple notes. I don't want to forget everything. My perspective, yeah,
how
and
social are you, Ginger? How often are you getting up with people, would you
well,
say?
I would like to do more because the loneliness, I think, is so damaging for
Hmm.
anybody, certainly my age.
Yep.
My best friends have died or they have cancer. So I had to reach out. And one of the wonderful things that happened to me with a Peninsula Association, I've got to give them a plug, is they taught me how to Zoom. I didn't know what Zoom was. That opened
Oh,
my world. It gave
doesn't
me
it? Yeah, we have so many friends that once they discovered Zooms, they have friends around the world. I mean, they have people in whole different countries than they're in, and yet the gift of being able to connect with people via Zoom is just phenomenal. I mean, it makes a huge difference.
I'm
Wow.
real active in dementia, like Dementia Alliance.
Mhm.
And they know my weird. Chipa, you called me a unicorn. Remember?
Yep, you're a
I think
unicorn.
that fits.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, you truly
there.
are. You're an amazing unicorn. But we
Thank
should
you.
we should carefully study unicorns, not dissect them, but carefully participate around a unicorn to find out what's the magic of a unicorn.
That's magic. Yeah, I can't account for it. I truly can't. I'm a researcher by trade. I love
Yeah,
research, so everything that comes down the pike. I spend a lot of time
yeah,
I have the time. I live a very simple, quiet life mostly. So I have a lot of time to do research to find out both how to, what do I say? Everything that's available, I absorb and I try to put my own spin on it as a person who lived it. And it's in my story. Yeah.
Ooh. Well, I mean, one of the things that I think you make me think of is you are a unicorn, and I don't know of many people who would choose to do what you did from the brink of dying. I mean, quite honestly, it's so much easier to let go, especially when you have the chemical experience of like, wow, this is wonderful. I'm going to move on, and like go. And instead, it was like, no, I'm going to go back because I'm not
That's a
done.
good
Wait,
that's a good point because in my writing and in my research, painful stuff comes up, and I remember every one of my hallucinations. We talked about that too,
wow,
but also the pain of what I did to them, and the horror of the when I used to believe I think I told you I was like often a very damaged, tortured animal, and then we
yeah,
lose the lucid dreaming. And what
yeah,
I'm kind of happy about is some people have talked to me about it and are using it, and that really fills me
that's
with wonderful
exciting. Well, that's
feeling.
excellent. So you make me, I mean, to remember everything. And have you been successful at processing through it and then the art of letting it go and letting it be present, but not letting it sit and weigh on you.
Oh, that's a good point too. Right, right. I'm letting it go by the catharsis of writing. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. And
That's
I just started doing the tips to caregivers, and that brought up a whole lot of things too, because I remember how badly I was treated, and that's painful to think about and talk about that. But also, if I can be a kind of a beacon of help, I also think that when I get the pushback from caregivers, we talked about that over the hope I can offer because
yeah.
you know,
Yeah, so I think, you're absolutely right, Ginger. Your background, your history, your story, you are a unicorn, but a unicorn with skill. So I mean, that's the magic, the magic of your pen is maybe your unicorn horn. But that opportunity to share out and to recognize from all these different perspectives how this all comes together, that's huge. So, I mean, kudos to you for not even at this moment at 86 saying, okay, well, I've done my fair share. And then still, you're still not quite finished with something yet.
that's a good. Yeah, I'm not finished.
Ah,
I'm 86, young, and I have a lot of energy. Fortunately, I do have a back problem. Oh, I wish I have this retrotholesis and
mm,
sciatica. Yeah,
ouch,
yeah,
ouch.
kicks me down there. But I do. I don't know. I think
I need
I've
to hook you
started.
up to yoga. You know that, right?
Well, yeah, I should do more. Um, I've
No prescribing, no prescribing. I'm just playing.
I've been introduced to the bus system around here in California, Northern California. There are a lot of agencies that will help. There's Ready Wheels. There's the senior centers, and
Cool.
something's kind of new since I talked to you. I started going to a senior center and having lunch. So
Wow,
that's a
good
new thing.
job.
Yeah, and
Congrats.
yeah,
Have you met
really,
some interesting human beings?
yeah, really, really, and very, very kind. And the staff is wonderful. Actually,
Cool.
I did a talk in front of a fundraising talk not long ago, and I kind of poured out my heart about how they opened my eyes to the world. And I said, as I went to my seat, I got a standing ovation. I know, and I'm a kind of theatrical.
No, but
And so I had to wait till I was 86 to get a standing ovation.
hey, I think the work you've done deserves a standing ovation. It wasn't just the talk, the work of recovery that you've done is pretty phenomenal. Wow.
Thank you.
Wow. Well, I want to say thank you for choosing to be present and to share yet again. And we will link the two together because there's a dramatic difference between you 2 years ago and you today.
Oh, okay. All right. That's great. Yeah, I'm happy.
Yeah, I mean, I can see even more recovery, even more language integration, even more thought integration, even more ability to reflect and consider and articulate. I mean, yeah, super cool.
Thank you. Thank you. So honored.
No, thank you so much for doing this. And it will come out as a courageous conversation. You'll get a chance to see it before we do anything with it. As you well know, we never
Yeah.
do things without permission. But thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ginger. It was so good talking to you. Hi, I'm Tifa Snow, and you just found our YouTube channel and watched one of our videos. I'm the owner and founder of Positive Approach to Care. Thanks for watching. And if you liked, if you have a comment about, or you would, please share it with people you know. Oh, and if you haven't yet done it, consider subscribing. We'll let you know when the next new video comes out. And you might want to visit our website, www.tipasnow.com, where you'll find other resources as well. See you there.